Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Venom, which is no longer a Build-A-Figure. As you can see, it has its own package. It is the same as the Monster Venom Build-A-Figure, though it is no longer Monster Venom. Now it's only kind of like Monster Venom. This is the Eddie Brock version of... I don't know if it's technically ever officially called Monster Venom. I don't know. Venom takes a lot of shapes, and I don't know that he gets a name every time. You guys can let me know what you think about that either way. But this is exactly the same mold, different paint job. That's all it is. No longer a Build-A-Figure, though it does require a slight bit of assembly. A lot of people are very excited about this. Some people are very kind of in the middle of the road for this. And then some people are just totally not interested because we just got this figure not that long ago and they already have it. So you can let me know which category you fall into, but we're going to review it relatively briefly anyway, and I'll give you some thoughts and tell you about the figure a little bit, and then you can see what you think. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Alrighty, this guy stands roughly, let's say 7¼ inches. You can see he's hunched. He's always gonna be hunched, but you can obviously adjust that depending on how you have him posed. This is a very neutral stance, so I think that's a fair height assessment, and that'll make him just about 18½ centimeters. And like I said, same exact sculpt as before, and that's a good thing because the sculpt before was pretty fantastic. In terms of the specifics, there's vein work everywhere. It's done very nicely. He's very vascular, but the musculature and the overall anatomy on this guy, very nicely done, very organic, far less blocky than a lot of the figures we see these days. Even in a very similar mold to the Hulks that came out recently, you can just see he flows a lot better. Hulk's arms kind of look like they're just kind of glued onto the block of his torso. This guy's torso has shape. His arms have shape. Very, very nicely done all the way around. The sculpt is pretty fantastic. Really, really wonderful. Now, like I said, the paints are different. This guy is all black with blue shading. I think they nailed the blue shading. It is just blue enough to look like, well, I guess it's technically highlighting, but it's still shaded in terms of the practice of applying paint with a feathering effect. So we'll call it shading. But it's done very, very nicely. It's just blue enough to stand out, but not too blue to make him look like he's a shiny blue guy. So that's good. Only real drawback to that is all of the PVC parts, which are the limbs essentially, they're relatively matte or satin finished. You can see here, not a lot of shine. That's pretty good. But then his torso, the hard stuff, it's probably ABS. It's very shiny. So that's a little bit of a bummer, not that much of a deal breaker. It's probably not super noticeable for most people, but it is something to mention. And then the last thing paint-wise really worth mentioning, the spider logo. It's not terrible, and like right there you probably don't even notice it too much, so it's not going to affect some people, but others are going to be really bummed out. It's pretty fuzzy. It's not out of focus. You can see by these lines in here that it's nice and crisp to focus, and those are nice and clean, but we have a lot of fuzziness going on, and it may not even read too well on camera. So you can see it's not like a huge deal, but for those of you that do photography, and just like looking at your figures up close, it's something to notice. Like, this is very obvious to me that this is a very fuzzy line, and that blows. And up here, it's not too bad, but it does look a little bit odd in some places. Really fuzzy at this elbow, if you want to call it an elbow. So yeah, you know, one guy made an argument one time that said, you know, the figures are going to be 10 feet, 15 feet away from me on a shelf. I don't really care what it looks like up close. Well, that's fine, but if that's the case, why don't you just get a cardboard cutout? And even still, even if you don't care, others do, so I'm going to cover it, and you can decide to do with that information what you choose. But it is fuzzy. The face is painted well enough, so that's fine. Overall, I think it's a really nice aesthetic. I'm pleased with it, other than the fuzziness. I think it's pretty good. I guess I'll give it an 8 if I'm going to go ahead and rate this thing, which I wasn't going to, but I can. The only downside I see to this figure overall is, and this is from lots of very technical research by talking to a few people on the internet, the feet. And I agree. Eddie Brock Venom, except for very, very tiny percentage of the time, has the slipper type feet, not toes. Eddie Brock Venom almost never has toes, and this does. And that bothers me, and it bothers a lot of people. I think most people are going to buy it anyway, but I think they would have had more sales if they did slipper feet. If that's the only thing they changed on this, it would have been cool. Yeah, it's still not the Lethal Protector or the more classic McFarlane style Venom. I still think we should get one of those. But as far as this goes, some slipper feet would have been awesome. It would have gone a really long way. but we do have the toe feet, so that's kind of a bummer, but whatever. There are no accessories, and as far as articulation goes, we'll just run that really quickly, even though, like I said, we've seen it recently. The head can lean back, the head can lean down, very nicely done. It does rotate, that's super helpful. No, it's not really. That's just the nature of the angle of the head and the neck. You can't really do much about that. Shoulders work just fine, pretty much horizontal. Full rotation, that's all fine. Bicep swivel is fine. Single jointed elbow, just about 90. You're not gonna get much more on a thick guy like this. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge. Hands are still posed questionably. This one's good. This one's kind of but you could use that as a gripping hand essentially, so that's okay. Ab crunch. It does snap back a little bit, gives them kind of a pot belly look. Probably don't do that. That's more of a neutral pose, and then you can snap it forward, one snap, and that leans over nicely. I have seen reports of that breaking, but I haven't had it happen, and it's basically the same exact thing, or it is the same exact thing as on the Build-A-Figure, and I don't think too many of those broke, so maybe it was just a fluke. Waist twist is fine. Hips go pretty much all the way forward, not really any far back at all. Splits are almost the splits, so that's cool. Thigh swivel's fine. Double jointed knee works. He's chonky, but it works. You do get a shin swivel if you want it. I have no reason to understand why anybody would want that. It really breaks the sculpt and doesn't really serve a purpose because you have a decent ankle rocker. Like, there's no reason to have that swivel there. The feet don't lean too far forward, they lean pretty far back, but yeah, you have a good ankle rocker. There's no need to rotate this, so all it does is hurt the sculpt, but it's not that big of a deal, so we won't worry about it too much. So yeah, articulation's definitely sufficient for this guy, so I'll give it, I guess an 8. I don't know, I guess you could say 9 if you want, but I mean, it's pretty standard, so whatever. Or okay, overall, it's pretty good. I would definitely prefer different feet, but that's not what it is, so it doesn't really count. Really the only drawback on this guy is the fuzzy paint job for this, which is kind of an important thing. I'm sure some people won't care, some people will absolutely hate it, so decide what you want to decide about that, but it is objectively fuzzy and not great, so I'm going to give this guy an overall verdict of only a 7. I know I gave it an 8 for the aesthetic and an 8 for the articulation, or at least I think I did. It's been a while since I started talking, but I think that it's kind of unacceptable. Really, as far as I'm concerned, Venom really needs to have the Venom logo on his chest, and if it's fuzzy, that's a problem. 7's still a good rating. I probably should have given the aesthetic only a 7, but that sculpt is just so nice. I hate to not say everything wonderful about this figure because gosh, it's such a good sculpt. I just wanna palm it. It's such a good sculpt, but that fuzzy thing, I'm bringing it down to a 7. I don't care if the math doesn't make sense. It's a 7 overall. There you go. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you probably should because I have new videos up just about every single day and thousands already on the channel for you to watch. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.